Today I need to restring a few of my guitars, so I came to the master here at Andy McGibbon's Guitar World, and Andy's gonna help us fixing that out.
Cool. The first guitar we're going to look at is a classical guitar, and it naturally takes nylon strings and therefore requires a slightly different stringing technique. We're going to start off this guitar by oiling and conditioning the board, and that's why we've removed all the strings. We would normally recommend that you string a nylon string guitar one string at a time so as not to detension the entire soundboard, which takes time to resettle. So what we're going to take is a special concoction that we make, but you can get away quite adequately with pure boiled linseed oil, and I do emphasize it must be boiled linseed oil, and that does a good job of penetrating the wood and keeping it in good shape. So what I'm going to do is take some very fine grade steel wool. This is not the sort of thing you buy at your local supermarket store, but it's a very fine grade steel wool, and this is quadruple naught grade. And we put some oil on the steel wool, and we start off by, because it's such a fine wool, we can actually go across the grain, it will not scratch the board. And it helps the board last longer because the dirt and grime will eventually act as a sandpaper and wear your fingerboard and your frets down. We'll now let it wait for a couple of minutes just to penetrate, and then we're going to wipe it off with some Robotel. The oil must be wiped off, not just on the board, but if there's any dripping down the sides, which you should try and avoid, that should be wiped off too, because linseed oil will dry very much like paint. Just about everybody has their own way of restringing a nylon string guitar, but we prefer the following methodology. We've examined a lot of them, and we believe this way is as good as any and certainly will give you consistent results. We start off, and we're starting here with the E6 string, and we take not the slightly floppy end, but we take the stiff end and pull it through, and we're going to turn it around like that, and what I do is put a bend in the end like that. This helps me to create a little area here, which by holding with my finger like that, I can pull and create a very simple knot. You'll also notice that I've kept this end short so that it doesn't actually touch the soundboard of the guitar, and which would possibly cause some vibrations, which we don't want. On the headstock end of the guitar, we take the flexible bit, which is designed like that for people who want to tie knots or do whatever they'd like to do here. This is the method we use. We would put the hole facing straight down, and we'd place the string through the hole and give ourselves some leeway to get the string back up again. Now we want this, on this string we want the windings to occur that side to enable the string to travel straight across the nut and have as little deviation from that straight path as possible. So in order to achieve that, I'm going to tie the knot this way so that the loose end is going to take off that side while I wind the string around this way. We use an electric screwdriver with a special attachment which allows us to do the job faster and generally more neatly. I'm keeping pressure on the string, which allows for a neater and tighter wind on, which will help ultimately for tuning as well. By winding it to that side, you can see that we've created the straightest possible path onto the machine head, and that will help your string when it comes to tuning and tunability. When we get to the clear nylon strings, the method is slightly different. On the G string I loop it over twice, which creates an effect a bit like a plait on a hair. But on the thinner strings we are going to loop this around 3 times. Once, twice, 3 times. And you'll see that'll pull into a neat little loop. Again, we will trim these so that they don't touch the soundboard. We've wound it in such a way that the string is pulling straight over the nut, as straight as possible, and you'll also notice that the windings are all neat. There is no overwindings and that sort of thing, which can all ultimately lead to tuning problems at a later stage. All that's left to do is to give it a bit of a trim. A nice pair of good cutters. Being very careful not to damage the top of the guitar. Starting point of restringing a steel string acoustic guitar is to place the string through the receiver hole in the bridge, and by gently pressing in the bridge pin. The bridge pin, as we already mentioned, shouldn't be too tight, and the next step is to put your thumb on the bridge pin and give it a bit of a pull to make sure that the ball end of the string is pulling up against the inside of the soundboard. When attaching the strings to the machine head, there are a number of things to consider. Firstly is the length of the string, because what we don't want is too many winds on the bobbin or too few winds. Okay, so what we do is we measure the string just short of the next machine head like that. We pin it, or we peg it with our fingers, and we feed it through at right angles to the fingerboard like that. Okay, this is very important because we know that by putting that much extra on the string, it's going to allow approximately 3 winds on the bobbin, which is about ideal. The next step is that we use our hands to pull a Z into the string. Now, a lot of people will tie the string or loop the string in such a way that it creates a knot. And my problem with this is that if you're in the middle of a gig and you break a string, it's very difficult to get off in a hurry. So we do this, and by just doing that Z, if I pull this really tight, you can see the string is already locked. You do not need knots. Now what I do is I create pressure on the string, take my string winder, and we'll wind this into 3 neat turns, and the important part of this is to make sure that the turns wind to the bottom of the string bobbin on the machine head. And we'll do that, we'll pull a little neat bend in that, and the next step is to simply cut the string off, and there it is, very, very neat. And what we would then do is to give the string a little bit of a pull, and that is to take a little bit of the settling out of the string. Some people call it stretching, but that'll just help the string retain its tuning so much better when it's still brand new. In the case of 3-a-side machine heads like this, we would actually have to judge as if there was a 4th machine head there, mark it, and repeat the procedure. The next guitar we're doing is a jazz guitar. It's a Gibson and has a slightly different tail and bridge arrangement to normal guitars, but the essence of it is the same. I'm going to start by removing all the strings because we're going to need to clean and oil the fingerboard. This guitar, you'll notice it has got a loose bridge, and under normal circumstances, if we weren't cleaning the board, it would be better to string it 1 string at a time so as not to displace this bridge. What we will do after we've strung the guitar is naturally go and check the intonation and make sure the bridge is in the right position. With a trapeze tailpiece, you clip the string underneath like that, and you retain the pressure with your left hand. The same rule applies where we take this string approximately to the next machine head, and then we will make a mark there, feed it through the bobbin and create the Z bend for locking purposes.
Thank you, Andy, for your hard work. It is a job well done, and I'm looking forward to playing my guitars.
Pleasure.